Hello and welcome back to my classroom. If you're new around here, I'm Rachel Vincent. I'm a 4th grade teacher in South Carolina, and I have brought you back into the classroom today because this time of the year, all I'm doing is thinking about what am I gonna do differently next year, especially with state testing as we're actively monitoring. I'm actually thinking about what do I want to have on this bulletin board? What would it be like if I moved this piece of furniture around? So I'm actually gonna take you around the classroom and show you some of the things that I have been thinking about doing differently next year. So I actually am keeping a lot of my wall space the same because our school is growing and we are getting a new wing added over that way, which is basically in the middle of our current playground. It is supposed to be ready not this coming year, but the year after. If I am still here, then I will be moving to the new wing. So I don't wanna have to take everything down and redo everything when I'm gonna have to move classrooms in a couple years. A lot of the wall space is going to stay the same. And if you want to see how I did all that, I have classroom setup vlogs that you can check. But the fabulous thing about my school is I do not have to take everything off the walls. The only thing that has to come down is anything that's educational learning wise. That comes down for state testing, which starts in a couple weeks. But most of my wall space will actually stay the same. But here are the few things I do plan on changing. All right, I'm just gonna give you a quick overview of my classroom. This is my space, not the website that used to exist a long time ago. But the front of the classroom, our classroom door, student cubbies, our back wall, and then my back cabinets, our reading corner, and then our window that goes back to my area. This language wall I absolutely love. It was a great help for students when they were working on their daily language practice, and I really love it, but it was right here. So when I was working with students here, other students would come to reference this board. So I'm gonna move all of these, I put them up as we learn them, to this back cabinet here. This is going to be where I'm gonna put our new language wall with all of those language posters. I will link them below if you're interested in them. I really like them. However, I did notice that they're a very basic, and yes, they helped my students, but what we learn in 4th grade is a little bit more complex, so I'm actually working on beefing up our grammar section of our notebook. So our theme board, I love, I want to keep. I'm going to try and do better. Didn't quite do as well as I wanted to, but I think I'm gonna move that to this area here, and I'm just put that poster somewhere else. I'm gonna keep our leadership roles students, and then pretty much this back wall will stay exactly the same. Obviously, I'll take anchor charts down and put them up again. I realized that I made this too high, so I will bring this down a block or two. All of this will stay the same. I'm considering moving my schedule and calendar back to that board since I'm moving that. Everything else will stay the same as far as my walls. Like I said, I want to revamp this grammar note section, and actually I'm going to revamp this whole, it's called a reading notebook, but I think I'm gonna start referring it to as our ELA notebook. So let me show you. Like I said, currently it's called a reading notebook. I want to call it our ELA notebook. And we have our reading notes section, which has different anchor charts that I've gotten from various places on TPT. And we'll keep this section the same. Our writing section is where we do our writing and keep some of our writing notes, and then this is the grammar section that I'm really beefing up what we're doing for what I'm going to put in here. I've already kind of made some of those, and then this is also where we kept our prefixes and suffixes for morphology, and so I'm going to actually make a whole word study tab for next year, and I'm making these smaller because I don't think they need, I can fit 2 on a page, and so if I make them smaller, I give it 3, so it'll be less printing and cutting. If you watched my what is working this year, which I will also link below, these bags where students keep their extra supplies, like this was such a great idea. Now, we're at the end of the year, so it's kind of a hot mess, but you can see that some students still have lots of supplies left, And so what I want to do is buy these zippered pouches that are very similar to this. This is what they keep at their tables with them, just a pencil and a glue stick and their dry erase stuff. But I want to buy the bigger ones of these to put their supplies in so that this won't happen. And then I think I want to move them out of this cart and into this over here. I think they're bigger. They will be able to get more stuff in there, and I think that would be better overall. There's nothing in it now. I had plans for doing soft start in the mornings, but my students, it's just something I couldn't do with my group of kids this year. But I also want to move this back here and move my display books back under the Promethean board because students knock those plugs out all the time. But that will also free up this wall space that I want to have where students hang their lanyards and ID badges. Because currently they keep them in their cubby, but as you can see, not everybody keeps them in their cubby or hanging like they're supposed to. Students break them, lose them, and it's just been a hot mess this year, so I would like to hang them on the wall here so we can find them, I know who's missing, and be a little more better with that area. Actually, one of the things I did today that I'm testing out, these two tables here were both sideways, and I turned them around because when they are this way and students sit on either side, they have more space than if they just sit on the ends. But with the couch, we have to keep this one. So far, this is working out. There's plenty of space. I'm glad I actually tried it now because when kids are here, it's completely different than when it's empty like this. So this is working out, which gives me more space here. So I'm thinking next year I might push this table out and take one of these tables that I have back here and turn it to where I can move my document camera and Chromebook to face out so that if I have to be on my computer while the students are working, I'm kind of looking at the class instead of the wall. So I'm still kind of thinking on that. I'm also planning on moving my date and reminders and visionary of the week to this side of the board for a couple of reasons. One, I have now changed to these circle numbers, and there really just needs to be more space to make lunch choices. Plus, in the afternoons, I have one of my jobs is to do the lunch. The other job is to do the date and reminders. And it's just real crowded right there when they're doing it. So if they're on two different sides of the board, it should be a little bit better. Speaking of class jobs, there are several, they all go right here, that I'm going to update. A few of them, I just think I can do a better job with them and change sort of what they do a little bit. Some of them are just kind of almost pointless. We don't really need them, I think. And so I would kind of like to change that around a little and just kind of overall. So I am keeping it in my notebook that I've had forever. So this notebook I have had for several years. I keep it mainly for beginning of the year and setup, and then end of the year, this type of stuff. So let me show you. It's where I put, I don't know if you can see this, where I put ideas of things I want to try. I add to it throughout the year, but it's also where I keep my running back to school list. You can see this is from 2019. So then I have my 2020, which was probably crazier than all of them. I have 2021, I have last year. So when it's time to set up again in the fall, all I have to do is look back at last year's setup so that I know what to do again, setting up the classroom, what I need to have for Meet the Teacher. So keeping it in the same notebook allows me to keep track of it. And it's also where I put my ideas for the next year. And then I have actually started making, so here's where I have my job ideas for next year. And then what I want to go ahead and start prepping for next year, prepping notebook labels, tabs for their notebooks and different things like that. So having like this notebook that I use for beginning of the year, end of the year, I take it home with me, have it throughout the summer. So when those ideas come to me, I have one place to look for them. So that has really been a huge lifesaver. So those are just a few of the things that I've already thought about changing. State testing is coming up for us. So I think by the time you see this, we'll be halfway through state testing. But so a lot of this stuff is coming down next week, and I will be spending a lot of time thinking about the classroom, so there may be more changes, so you'll have to stick around. I do plan on doing some classroom setup vlogs again this summer, but if you're interested in seeing what has gone really well, that I actually looked back and those things are still working, I still am glad I decided to do them, check out the video that's on your screen now and you can see some of the things that have worked in my classroom all year long.